Here with reaction, author of the book 88 Days to Kandahar, former CIA station chief in Islamabad, Robert Grenier, is with us, and Fox News strategic analyst Colonel Ralph Peters. Let me first play for all of you guys. I had his platoon members on this show, and let's listen to them. This is what they said.
The Army needs to do what's right here, and they need to abide by the Army values, and he needs to face consequences for his actions. Not only is it a slap in the face to all the men and women who have served honorably, who upheld their oath, and it's also a bad precedence to set towards future service members.
To say that Bo is honorable is it's a spit right in everybody's faces, and it is frustrating.
He needs to go through all the proper channels that any other deserter would go through. So if that's a court-martial, then yes, but he is a deserter, and he needs to be held 100% accountable for his actions.
All right, Robert Grenier, 5 members of the Taliban released. We're told the money may have exchanged hands as well. You got all of these guys that were with him that said he deserted. As many as 6 people died looking for him, many others injured. What should be the right thing to happen here?
Well, it's a little bit hard for us to say, looking at it from the outside. Even with all the information that's come out, there are a lot of details, of course, that we're not privy to. But you know, from everything that we've seen, it's hard to put a positive gloss on this. Again, from everything that we know, this man clearly did desert his post. He did an incredibly stupid thing for which he suffered, and for which a number of his colleagues apparently suffered even more greatly. A number of his colleagues apparently died as an indirect result of things that he did. So at the end of the day, should he be accountable? Absolutely, he has to be accountable. What is an appropriate punishment given all that he has suffered up until now? I think that's somebody else's call. All
right, Colonel Peters, let me ask you this. According to reports, they actually heard from locals over the radio that there's an American soldier out looking for the Taliban. All right. Is there any possibility this could be some version of the Stockholm Syndrome, some version of PTSD? Is there a need maybe for an open mind and understanding about his mental state?
No, that's absolute bull. I mean, this guy...
I'm just asking a question.
No, come on. Sean, I've got to watch my language on the air.
The Stockholm Syndrome and PTSD are real.
Yeah, well, okay, but but that's after the fact.
That's bull.
He didn't have PTSD. He didn't have Stockholm System in his unit, for God's sakes. Look, what we have here is very, very clear. It's damnably clear. You have the White House, which doesn't understand why this is a big deal. I mean, he just deserted, right? Wouldn't anybody do that? And they just want to protect the president. And they are pressuring the Army to whitewash this. And they don't understand that for the military, those who went before, retirees like me, those on active duty, this is a powerful matter of, as you heard from that young soldier, of precedent and principle. If you let Bergdahl walk, and it's not about this pathetic little creep Bergdahl, but if you let, it's about the principle. If you let him walk with full pay and benefits and a promotion, despite overwhelming evidence that he deserted his post in wartime, you make it virtually impossible to prosecute future deserters. Now, in the Army, I'm sure the Army's not perfect. You've got some people craven enough and ambitious enough to cave to the White House, and I'm sure they're arguing the White House's point. But so far, you've got some generals that are showing backbone and saying, no, for the good of the Army, for the good of the military, he has to go through the Article 32 and into court-martial, and the White House is fighting it tooth and nail because they don't give a damn about our military. They just care about this pathetic Puss in Boots president's reputation, what's left of it.
Robert Grenier, every member, without exception, and I met many of these members of his platoon, they're angry. They feel like he walked away and that other people were injured and died. Now, with that said, I'm going to ask you the same question that Colonel Peters has ripped me a new one for and said, Bull, do we have to factor in multiple deployments, the stress of combat, any chance he might have snapped? Because this does not sound like an American soldier to me, that he would go out searching for the Taliban. Do we have to factor that in, ask that question?
Look, you know, Sean, I think there are maybe some other things that ought to be factored in here, and I think that the people who are charged with making these decisions really ought to take these into consideration. But it seems to me that there's an aspect to this that I really haven't heard mentioned up until now, and that is that it seems to me that somewhere along the line there was a failure of leadership. From everything that's come out right now, whatever else you want to say about Sergeant Bergdahl, this man was no warrior. This was somebody who apparently thought he was joining some armed wing of the Peace Corps. He really had no clear idea what he was out there for, what he was supposed to be doing. He very quickly became severely disillusioned. Apparently, he made no secret of it. Somebody in the chain of command ought to have recognized that this guy was a disaster waiting to happen, and for his good and the good of everybody around him, gotten him out of there. There was no reason why he should have been on a forward operating base in Afghanistan.
You know,
that's not true. Look, this is not, the Army is not a daycare center. For God's sakes, and it wasn't multiple deployments, it was one deployment. He wasn't that far into it. Look, this guy, the evidence is he deserted his post in combat. Simple, cut and dry. I don't want to hear about PTSD. I don't want to hear about, oh, how sad it all is and he shouldn't have been there. He volunteered to join the Army. He wanted to be a big macho tough guy, and he deserted his post in wartime. Now, let's have justice. Let the military process go through. Let him go through the Article 32.
But that's part,
Let it go
that's
to court
part of it, though. Colonel, I'm not disagreeing with you, nor am I taking the position. It is just so out of character for any American soldier to ever act this way. And that's why I'm raising questions that others have raised.
Look at his family.
People died.
Like father, like son.
Yeah. All right. Guys, good to see you. And I'm enjoying your book, by the way. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. Colonel Peters, always good to see you.